What up? It's the Holy Ghost Rider. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again. Sorry about the little gap we've had in uploads, but I've been trying to figure out my audio situation. I've actually got two different mics running just in case one doesn't work. So we're going to take the better of the two. So we are going to talk about something that I've been trying to talk about for about a week now. And just because of all the audio issues, I haven't been able to post anything. But I wanted to talk about the Shroud of Turin. For those of you that don't know, the Shroud of Turin is a piece of linen cloth with an image of a first century Jewish man who had been crucified. Who do we know that sounds like that? That's right, it's Jesus Christ.
Check this out!
Jesus Christ.
Please, just call me Jesus.
And the reason that we know that it's Jesus Christ is all of the wounds and blood spattering matches perfectly with what we would expect to see based off of the description from the Bible. So you can see the holes where nails would have been driven through his wrists. You would have seen holes where the nails would have been driven through his ankles. You've seen puncture wounds where the crown of thorns would have been. And you can even see that there's a wound from the spear in the side, which, by the way, was not a common practice. The Romans typically ended a crucifixion by breaking the victim's leg.
My leg!
And they did that because it would make it so that the victim couldn't pull themselves up to breathe, and that's how they would die on the cross. But anyways, what makes this special is that this image was not something that was painted on, dyed, woven, anything of the sort. It is essentially like a photo negative, like light had to create this image. And in the 80s, you know, we've known about the Shroud for, 2,000 years, super long time. And it has been on display for most of that time. It survived 2 fires, which is a miracle in itself. But in the 80s, what they did was carbon dating.
I joined a dating site for people my age called Carbon Dating.
And it placed it to the medieval period. So the consensus for a long time was, okay, it's just a medieval piece of artwork, and that's it, nothing special. All right, well, it is what it is. I guess it's cool, but it's just a medieval piece of artwork. Well, that really bothered Shroud researchers, and the reason that bothered them was because of some of the impossibilities of the Shroud itself.
That's simply not possible.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why not?
So you remember when I said that the Shroud had to have been created via like a photo negative, like with light? Well, to put a photo negative on linen, it would take some crazy number like 750 billion watts or something. I don't remember the exact number, but it's an amount of energy that we wouldn't even have the technology to recreate this image today, let alone in the Middle Ages. Also, the Shroud, the image on it was 3-dimensional. On top of that, there was blood spattering that perfectly matched another artifact that we believe to be the head wrapping that would have went over the Shroud, over Jesus's face. And the blood spattering that's on it is real human blood. It is AB positive blood.
Are you sure?
Well, it might not be positive, but we know it's AB blood. So this year, 2025, right before Easter, they decided to do another carbon dating on it. And they realized that the carbon dating test that they did first, they used a piece of the Shroud that had likely been sewn on in order to display it. And that piece did come back from the medieval period. So this time, they took another piece of the Shroud that they were like, all right, this absolutely was not sewn on. Like, this is an original piece. And they did the carbon dating on that. And what they found with that is that it was dated to the 1st century AD, which was the time of Jesus. And you might be wondering, well, how did the image get there? Well, it's theorized that it was the moment or millisecond that Jesus was resurrected. There was so much energy and power released that it imprinted an image onto his burial shroud. And so what we have here, I'll bundle it all up in a nice package for you. What we have here is a piece of cloth with a first century Jewish man who is believed to be Jesus Christ due to the crown of thorns, the spear in the side, all the wounds matching. You could even tell from the shroud that the man had been scourged. We know that it perfectly matches a head dressing that is believed to be the head dressing of Jesus Christ. And we have now carbon dated it to the 1st century AD. So that, in my opinion, seems pretty cut and dry to me. I think it's real. And I think that is super cool. It's all essentially confirmed. We have the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. Now, some people are like, it's actually a bad thing because people might worship the shroud, like the object itself. And my response to that is, okay.
Okay.
Just because someone might do something doesn't mean that it's inherently a bad thing. That mentality is real, and a lot of people have it about a lot of different things. It's kind of like 600s, 1000s, Hayabusas, all kinds of bikes like that. Well, someone may or may not use those bikes to do 180 plus miles an hour. All right, that's between them and the district attorney.
I don't know, call me crazy, but I don't think they deserve to have their bright futures ruined by a momentary, minute, never to be repeated lapse of judgment.
Just because someone may do something doesn't mean it's wrong or that it shouldn't exist. So if someone chooses to worship the object of the shroud, that's between them and God. Just like it is between the writer and the district attorney if they're going to choose to do 180 miles an hour. And so by saying that, I think they're basically discounting the biggest piece of evidence we have for our religion, that Jesus was killed on the cross and was resurrected 3 days later. Like, how are you just going to discount that? That's amazing. Does anyone know why Honda CR-V drivers just drive so slow? It's like they get behind the wheel of it and they're absolutely incapable of going at least the speed limit. They're at minimum doing 5 under at all times. Wow, we got some nice twisties here. Ooh. Love me some twisties, that feels good. This is a fun road. I don't want it to end. But with the shroud, I hate that people discount it, or they'll even say things of like, I don't need the shroud to believe. Okay, me neither. But you know what it does? It reinforces what Jesus went through for us, and I think that's pretty amazing. And, you know, maybe it is someone's reason to believe. Any piece of evidence that we get that brings more people to Jesus, I think that's a great thing. I've been wanting to talk about the shroud just because I think it's so amazing that we have this piece of evidence. I don't really care even if it's fake. Like, you know, oh, what's the big deal if it turns out it's fake? You know, I get to heaven, I ask God, hey, was that real? And he's like, nah. And I'm just like, oh, okay. At the bare minimum, it still makes me appreciate what Jesus did for us. And then if it turns out it's real, that's incredible. That's amazing. I think that God has put a lot of stuff on this earth to prove that he is here. And it's not all just artifacts and relics. A lot of it is just the way things work. for example, did you know that the 10 plagues of Egypt are like historically and scientifically proven to have happened? The water turning to blood, they say it likely could have been a algae bloom that turned the water red, which we see all the time. Like, it happens up in Michigan quite often. And then that algae bloom will drive the frogs out of the water. So there you go. Now you got frogs. And then all the frogs die. And so you get flies, because flies are going to come and clean up the dead frogs. And then beyond that, you know, it's like a chain reaction. Like, the river turning to blood caused everything else. And like, we know that it happened. So there's a bunch of stuff where it's like, yeah, we can see that these things occurred. I think it's a little silly to say with a book, especially like the Bible, that they're just making everything up. Even if you want to look at it from a secular standpoint, a lot of it, you do have to recognize that it did happen, because there's more than one source saying that it did. It's up to you to decide whether or not it was divine intervention. So I've got this friend, his name is also Zach. I think it was last year he wrecked his bike, and he was okay, but his bike was totaled. And, you know, this is months on. He texted me the other day, and he says, yo, I found my bike listed on Marketplace, and sends me pictures. So I find the listing, and this dude has his bike listed at $2,800. It's a 07 Honda CBR 600RR. Mind you, this bike was totaled. The frame was bent, the fork seals are broken, the whole front end is gone. The bike is messed up. Like, it's bad. And this guy had it listed for $2,800, and in the description it said runs and rides. Bro, what do you mean it runs and rides? The frame is bent. I guess you're going to get really good at turning right, because that's all you're going to be able to do. But I remember when he texted me and said that he got in a wreck. And, man, I was terrified, because he is one of my best friends. And I call him. I'm at work. I'm like, hey, boss, I got to go to the back. Like, my friend just told me he wrecked his bike. And I call him, and he doesn't answer. Riders, if you ever wreck your bike, God forbid, I hope you don't, but if you ever wreck your bike and you tell your friends that you wrecked in a text, you better answer their call. Man, I was just talking about wrecking my bike, and I just had someone slam on their brakes. That was scary. But you better return their call. Do not text someone that you wrecked and then don't answer their call. Like, it freaked me out, man. It freaked me out. Now, luckily, eventually he did return my call, but seriously, like, just tell someone you wrecked when you're ready to talk. Oh my goodness, this person's a problem, bro. Getting around you freak me out. I really don't want them behind me now that I think about it. I'm thinking about filtering up to the front. This is ridiculous. Not sure about the legality of filtering in Ohio. These lanes are a little too close together to split comfortably. Oh man, this is so slow. Just because there's a lot of cars on the road doesn't mean we have to go slow. Had to lock in there for a second. Some heavy traffic. But yeah, I think the Shroud is just awesome. And we should definitely be looking for these really cool artifacts and relics, even though they're not necessarily the most important things. I just think it's cool. It tells us a lot about our faith, tells us a lot about history. I think it's awesome. And if we can get more people looking for more stuff like that, that'd be really cool. My wife got a new car recently, and it is actually really cool. I hated her last car. Her last car was a 2020 Toyota CHR. Let me tell you, this thing was ugly. This thing was small. Like, it's supposed to be an SUV, yet I had more room in my Honda Civic. What's up with that? Like, the back seat. I am not a very tall man, but when I was in the back seat, if someone had their seat in the front pushed back even a little bit, which I never really was in the back seat, but if I were to get in it, my knees would be halfway into the person's back. So that car just had to go. We ended up getting her a Mazda, and this thing is sick. Like, I love this thing. Huge upgrade. And she is really excited about it. I have been thinking about doing a little review on it just because I like it so much, even though it's not a bike. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. If you'd like to peep the new Holy Ghost Rider family's car. Ever wonder why certain car brands have never made a bike? Like, you know, Honda makes bikes. Why has Toyota never made a bike? Why has Mazda never made a bike? I bet Mazda would make a nice bike. Like, I bet that thing would be stupid. Can y'all imagine if Dodge made a bike? I mean, they slap Hellcat engines into minivans. Imagine what they would do with a bike. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again. Again, I just like to talk about the Shroud just because I think it's super cool. And I think you should take every bit that makes you feel closer to God and cherish it. You know, there's a lot in this world trying to push us away. Take every little thing you can that makes you feel closer or strengthens how you feel and hold on to it. This has been the Holy Ghost Rider. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all have a great day.